Um, so leading off, I think that, the first thing is that of course, a story comes out to sabotage the draft, So the NBA draft was on Thursday, and of course a story has to come out with, Kyrie Irving and the Nets are at an impasse, and then he sends out a list of teams that he wants to go to. And
Well, you know what? Before we even get into all the takes, here we go.
Yeah.
Here's the bottom line. Remember this throughout everything else we're talking about. Okay. Next year, Kyrie Irving will be playing for the Brooklyn Nets. Next year, Kevin Durant will be playing for the Brooklyn Nets. Next year, Anthony Davis will be playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay? And as for anything else, Bradley Beal has not indicated that he wants to leave. He may be thinking about it. He probably should be thinking about it. But we have not heard anything to indicate that he's going to leave. Okay? And beyond that, I think that was basically the main. Yeah, that was the main thing. So yeah, I guess we'll start with the Kyrie Irving thing.
Yeah, and just a second on Bradley Beal, like he is actually a free agent, so that it's not crazy to think he could go to another team. That's actually, right. The most reasonable thing. But to your point, there's been no indication that any of that is going to happen. So yeah, I just think, look, my overwhelming opinion is on this. I don't think anybody wants Kyrie. Number one. And even if they do want him, the avenues to getting him are not advantageous. Not only, so let me get this straight. If I'm the Dallas Mavericks, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Heat, anybody, if I want to get Kyrie, I not only have to give up stuff to get him, but then I have to sign him up for 3 or 4 more years at $40 million a year plus. Like, and that's what you think?
30, 31?
Yeah.
With a history of injuries. And also, he from time to time just decides, I don't think I'm going to play.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to hang out. I'll be fine.
Yeah. So we listen. I understand we all need content, but the media is bloodthirsty for this stuff. As soon as the possibility of anybody as good as Kyrie could move to another team comes out, it turns into a big slobbering mess of everybody trying to get their crappy takes in. So
yeah, I mean, and it was funny. So today I'm on Facebook, and I follow some different NBA groups on Facebook, and someone had posted a picture with a quote from Adrian Wojnarowski, and it said, essentially, this is a bluff on all sides.
Yeah,
as in the Nets are kind of playing hardball, and Kyrie Irving and his guys are playing hardball as well. So they're both leaking stuff because. The Nets want to be careful because they don't want to be paying Kyrie Irving too much money, but not having him, not really something they can do, but they don't want to just give him, 4 years guaranteed or something like that. They probably want to put some incentives in it or something. Kyrie Irving, as he should, is trying to get as much money as he can, and as much guaranteed money as he can, I should say. So, yeah, it's just basically bluffing on all sides. There's no, people leak this stuff. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen. And by the way, it doesn't even mean that there's a remote possibility of it happening. That's just, This is how the game is played.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It probably came out from Kyrie's side that they're at an impasse as far as the contract goes. And then it came out from Brooklyn's side that Kyrie's been holding practices after the team practice with him and the other players, which, listen, I'm not even going to get into whether that's true or not. I don't know that I really can believe, number one, I don't know that I really believe that, number one. Number two, if that's true, good Lord, why would the Nets want that out? I don't quite understand. That's why I just don't buy it. I think it's a contract negotiation ploy. I think it is just, and listen, and I get that. And, it's a rock and a hard place situation because Brooklyn can't afford to lose him for nothing.
Well, they can't afford to lose him for nothing. And guys, okay, what everyone needs to understand here, okay, I understand that the goal is obviously to win a championship. When you have Kevin Durant, who's one of the best offensive players we've ever had in the history of the game, your goal is obviously to win the championship, okay? They basically they had a shot that first year where Durant was back playing from the Achilles, and they went and got Harden, and it didn't work out. Okay, and then last year Kyrie Irving torpedoed the season by not getting vaccinated. Okay, and basically leading to James Harden leaving and quitting on the team. So they took a shot to win it, and then it kind of backfired. Okay, and now looking forward, their best shot to win anything, to be any level of competitive, is to have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving there. Even given all the crap that Kyrie Irving gives you, he's still a tremendous offensive player. If you have Durant and Kyrie Irving, and maybe you try to make some moves on the, with some of the other guys, see if you can get some shooting or defense or whatever, and you just take your chances. And if Kyrie Irving and Durant play a significant number of games in the regular season, they'll get a high seed in the playoffs. They could probably win at least one. They could probably win one round. You get into round two, I don't know. I mean, it would depend who they're playing. Like if they're playing Philadelphia, I mean, how much do you believe in Philadelphia? Because by the time you get to the end of the season, Joel Embiid's probably going to be hurt. James Harden, we don't know what the hell he's giving you. And then you just got a bunch of other young guys, and you got Doc Rivers, who doesn't make adjustments in the middle of a playoff series. So, maybe you could get past them, but this is your best shot right now in terms of what's available and what you could possibly do. Okay? And if you're the GM, if you're Sean Marks, you have to win to save your job. Okay? You can't just, I'm tired of this Kyrie Irving crap, let's just get rid of him. For what?
Right.
What are you going to get that's going to replace that and make you as good as you could potentially be with Durant and Kyrie Irving on the same team?
Yeah, so Kyrie has to decide whether he's going to opt into the last year of his current contract by Wednesday. So here's the thing that I would like all of the sports media to address before they just start spouting off about trade rumors. Okay, if the only way he's going to get traded is if he opts in. There's no the idea of him, all right, I'm going to opt out and then do a sign and trade with another team. So here's the deal with the sign and trade problem, okay? If you do a sign and trade, you're hard capped $6 million above the luxury tax.
Okay.
So of the team, so you have to have a certain amount of cap space to be able to pull that off. And most of the good teams are in the luxury tax area. So that basically takes off the list the Clippers, the Mavericks, the Heat, and the Lakers. They can't do a sign and trade for Kyrie. So the only way that this works is Kyrie has to opt in, and then they would have to trade him. Which, if you're Brooklyn, I have no idea why you would do that. If Kyrie opts into the final year, to me, if you're Brooklyn, you just say, okay, let's just play the year out.
We'll play the year out, and then we'll figure out what to do.
Because there's not much he can do. And if Kyrie opts out, his options are really limited because there's like 3 or 4 teams with cap space, and they're all bad teams. He's not going to go to Orlando and Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, okay, well, was there more you were going to say about Kyrie? Because I wanted to kind of move to the Lakers in terms of that.
Yeah. So what I think, this is what I think is going to happen, okay? As much as I hate this, I would love to sit here and be the guy that go, you can't give Kyrie anything, screw him, blah, blah, blah. And listen, I
understand to a certain degree because he's a pain in the ass. I get it. But this is also, like, if you and I wanted to sit here and do hypothetical stuff for fun, okay, fine. But the people running basketball teams, you can't just fuck around and be like, oh, well, I'm just sick of this. Let's just vote. You cannot run a team that way.
Right, and I don't think the owner would allow that. So I think what Brooklyn is probably going to do is say, listen, Kyrie, opt in for next year. We'll give you, because Kevin Durant's there for 4 years. So it makes sense to me to tie those contracts together. So opt in for the 1 year. We'll give you 3 years added on to that. Okay. But they'll either make the last year not guaranteed or a team option. Okay. And we'll give you, whatever. I think that's what probably will happen. I think he'll opt in for the 1 to get the $36 million, and then it'll be 2 or 3, whatever they can negotiate after that, as an extension to keep him there as long as Durant's there. It's not going to be more than 4 years because, they're not getting, I don't think they can do more than 4 anyway. But so yeah, that's probably what will happen. Everybody's like, oh God, how can you can't give Kyrie the blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, you don't have you really don't have a lot of options. You can opt in. He's not going to play the year out. Kyrie's going to want a new deal. So you compromise, meet somewhere in the middle, give him 3 years instead of 4, and make it like 3 years, $100 million or something like that.
Look,
it
like
can
I
be
said
done.
before. Yeah, well, like I was saying before, they had a shot at winning a championship. That first year when they went and got Harden, they had a shot. They had injuries. Kevin Durant's foot was on the 3-point line. It happens, okay? And a lot of times when they kind of went all in, and when you go all in like that, you end up paying a price the next year or the year after or something like that, okay? Yep. And they're kind of paying a price because they dumped a bunch of stuff for James Harden, and then they had to get rid of James Harden. And now they got Ben Simmons, who they're trying to rely on, which we don't even need to get into Ben Simmons, but yeah. So they kind of took a shot, and now this is kind of what they're left with, and it's like, tell me the better option that's out there.
Right. Okay, so you wanted to talk about the Lakers?
Well, so yeah. So in terms of, I mentioned ridiculous takes. I mean, it was Colin Cowherd goes on, I don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday or what it was, and he says, because he's been on this get rid of Anthony Davis thing for a couple years now, and he's basically like, do the Lakers have the guts to trade Anthony Davis for Kyrie Irving? Because Anthony Davis doesn't solve their problem, but Kyrie Irving solves like 3 or 4 problems, And then the other part of the take I love, it's like, well, what are you going to do about Westbrook? Forget about Westbrook. It doesn't matter. I'm like, no, it does matter, because how deep are you guys going to go into the luxury tax to get Kyrie Irving? Like, I don't understand. Like, what, but yeah, that whole thing. And it's like, how does Kyrie Irving improve the Lakers beyond what they have with Anthony Davis? Like, I understand that Anthony Davis is unreliable from a health standpoint, but when he's out there playing, he's like one of the 10 best players in the league,
And Anthony Davis wants to play basketball.
Yeah, he just gets hurt.
Anthony Davis wants to play. His goal is to play basketball. That's his job, okay? Kyrie Irving is he going to play? I don't know. And yes, am I worried? But it's just complete nonsense. Number one, the idea that Kyrie Irving is going to command Anthony Davis on the open market is absolutely insane.
You know what? I just thought of this. You know what Kyrie Irving is? Okay, imagine for a second. Imagine you have like a band, right? And you have this like really ridiculous guitar player, right?
Yep.
And the rest of the band, you're kind of trying to play good songs and like stay on tempo, stay together, stay tight, But then you have this guitar player who you're playing live shows, and he'll just kind of go off onto a tangent, And it's like, man, that guy's amazing. But at the same time, it doesn't really fit with what the rest of the band is doing, and the show kind of sucks because you're like, yeah, the show was kind of cool, but then this one guy he was amazing, but he just kind of went off and did his own thing. Kyrie Irving just wants to go out there. He wants to go out there and play well, but it's not in the context of, I want to win a championship. No. I want to do whatever it takes to win a championship. No. He just wants to go out there and be an artist, essentially, and just throw stuff onto the canvas. It's like
Van Halen, right?
Because he's a really technical. Yeah, he's a really technically skilled basketball player, and it is ridiculous. But it's like, in terms of what you need to win a championship,
Yeah, he's not a team guy. He is basically, he would be better in an individual sport, right? If Kyrie Irving was a golfer, it'd be perfect. You know what I mean? Like, he just does not. He doesn't make. You've seen this, by the way. This is the last 5 years of Kyrie. This is not. Oh well, he didn't get vaxxed, and that's the only problem. That's the other take I cannot stand, is acting like, oh well, the vaccine thing's over now, so everything's fine. No, dude, he's been a problem for a while. Like, he basically forced his way out of Cleveland because he heard a rumor that they might trade him. So he was like, no, trade me then. So they forced a trade. Then he acts like a complete idiot in Boston, alienates everybody. They all can't stand him. Within a year of him being there, everybody hates him. Okay? So then he's like, he tells everybody he's going to stay, and then immediately, free agent goes to Brooklyn. They choose, by the way, this is Kevin Durant too. They choose to go to Brooklyn. And whatever you think about, Durant leaving the Warriors, I understand it. Durant was done with it. He wanted to go do his own thing. I understand that. But what I think is you can criticize is Durant's choice of what team he goes to. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving go to Brooklyn. They don't meet with the general manager or anybody else before they go.
Yeah.
Normally guys do a free agent tour, like you've seen LeBron do this, twice, where he would take a tour and he'd go visit with all these teams, then he would decide where he wanted to go. And, they didn't do that. They're just like, no, we're going here. And that's it. They just didn't pay any attention to the organization, the ownership, the general manager, the structure of the team. They had no coach. They basically got the coach fired when they went there. They got Atkinson fired. And so, yeah, it's a gigantic mess. And
it's like, guys, you can't just roll the ball out onto the court and like, all right, let's go play. No, you're not going to win a championship that way. And also, it's like, this is not an and one mixtape thing where you just go out there and it's like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's not how you win championships. Like,
right. Yeah. And listen, like I would, I don't think there's any, I agree with you. There's no way Kyrie doesn't stay in Brooklyn. They'll keep him somehow, some way. But my dream scenarios, now let's get into some fun stuff here. Because everybody started floating around Kevin Durant trades and all kinds of stuff.
Right. If Kyrie Irving leaves, which look, because we're Miami Heat fans, I mean, if Kevin Durant's available, okay, try to go get him.
Every team in the league is going to want him. So,
exactly.
So yeah, exactly. I thought, number one, I would love Kyrie to go to the Knicks because that would just be fantastic every game in New York. Because let me tell you something, the New York fans, they will not put up with Kyrie's bullshit. No way. If he misses games, he will get booed when he comes back. The Knicks fans do not put up with that crap. Now, if you're good, they'll cheer you. Absolutely. But to me, it would be fantastic because New York, it would make the NBA better because New York would be so excited because he's been on Brooklyn for 3 years. Nobody cares. But,
yeah, nobody.
But if you go to the Knicks, everybody's interested. It would get all the Knicks fans fired up. They'd be all excited. They'd be puffing their chest out, telling us how great they are the whole off season. And then when they get to the games and Kyrie just, you know what, I'm going to take 2 weeks off, they would go absolutely ballistic. So that's what I would love to happen. Kevin Durant, I thought, I was trying to think what was the most, they did this on Bill Simmons' podcast. So, shout out to them for coming up with this first. But there were some fun Kevin Durant trades that I thought would be kind of interesting. So number one, I kind of like, sending Kevin Durant to Memphis to play because Memphis has all these picks and they have all these young players that they could send to Brooklyn. Now the thing kind of, it probably, the trade pieces kind of fall apart because if you're assuming, Memphis obviously would keep Ja and they would try to keep Jaren Jackson. Then you're talking about, Dylan Brooks and Brandon Clark and, a bunch of guys that nobody would be excited about. So you would think they'd have to get a star back, right? But, so Memphis I kind of liked Phoenix, as kind of a sign and trade DeAndre Ayton centerpiece deal where you send DeAndre Ayton and Cam Johnson or Mikal Bridges, one of them, and you send them to Brooklyn. So you have Durant playing with Chris Paul and Devin Booker, which, man, That seemed like a lot of fun because it takes all the pressure off Chris Paul now, and so that one I kind of liked, but the other one that was kind of sneaky was the Clippers, trade Paul George and whatever other pieces to Brooklyn, so you got Kevin Durant playing with Kawhi, but anyway. Since we're in fantasy land, everything sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, and that was part of the whole problem this week. It's just like, trade him to the Clippers, and I'm like, well, if you don't want to give up Paul George and Kawhi, you're going to give up all those other pieces, and that's part of what makes you a championship contender.
Right.
So why the hell? It's like, and this is the whole. This is kind of an underlying point, like the era of you're just going to get 2 or 3 unbelievable players, and they're just going to guide you to a champion. Like, no. Okay, you could barely do that before. Like the Miami Heat, like they struggled to win championships, and they had LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh. So no, you can't really do that anymore. You need a couple star players, but you need defense. You especially need perimeter defense, and you need shooting. Okay, you can't and you need a little bit of depth. I mean, you can't just be rolling out like 4 guys you can trust and then just, all right, we'll just figure it out. Like, you need a few more guys.
Right,
So.
and we saw, like looking, this is a good segue kind of into the NBA draft stuff, is that you need wings, man. You need big guys that are long, like the era, like thinking like you would trade Paul George for Kawhi Paul George for Kyrie, excuse me. So no, you'd have to take the Clippers role players. But the problem is when you have these little guards, they're really a problem in the playoffs because the other team just attacks them every play.
Yep.
And as much as I think Steph Curry has improved on his defense, the Celtics were like, okay, where's Steph? Where's Jordan Poole? We're just going to go after them the whole time. And, you have to be really, when you're the size of Kyrie or Steph, you have to be so special offensively to make it work that it's just really hard. So it's just like, and again, I go back, it's just very simple. Why, if I'm the Clippers, why the hell would I have Paul George signed up for 4 years. Why would I make any move and then have to give Kyrie an extension? Like, smaller athletes don't hold up physically. He's not going to hold up emotionally. We know that. So, again, it makes absolutely no sense. He'll be back in Brooklyn, and that's the end of it. So, anything else about that before we move on?
I was trying to think. I mean, there were a lot of ridiculous takes just about all these different trade ideas. I guess the other thing I'll say is that next year, the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers are not winning the championship. I don't care what they do. It's not going to happen. The Lakers, maybe they have a better year than last year. Maybe they make the playoffs, depending on the health of LeBron and Anthony Davis. But and same thing for the Nets, But that they're not winning the championship. I don't see it. It's like you guys are so focused on the star players. The problem with the Lakers isn't really the stars. They blew up their roster that won a championship. They got rid of shooting and defense that they need because they're old and slow. And it's like they're old and slow and they're bad on defense. Oh, we're going to get Kyrie Irving. That makes you even worse on defense.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think if you asked me who has a better shot, I'd probably take the Lakers just because of the two guys.
Right. I mean, if you have both of them, I think you have a shot. They still need to rearrange some of their roster because they are freaking old and slow, like I said. That's not...
Yeah.
Against a team like Memphis, I think Memphis offensively would be a nightmare for the Lakers defense because they just don't have the guys.
Right. Yeah. And I think the Lakers have the ability to make more. They have the ability to improve their roster more than Brooklyn does. I just think that because Westbrook's an expiring contract. Honestly, if you want to get rid of somebody, you just attach a first-round pick to him and send him to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City takes everybody. They took Horford, they took Kemba Walker, and they just bought them out and sent them on their way. So, the idea that they can get rid of Westbrook anytime they want. And if Houston would take him for John Wall, I would much rather have John Wall than Russell Westbrook because John Wall at least can do point guard type stuff and will probably come off the bench, but in general, I agree with you. I think the odds of Brooklyn or the Lakers winning the whole thing next year are pretty low. It's pretty much impossible.
Despite what Vegas says.
Yeah, that's the best part. They have Golden State's the favorite, understandably, and they have Milwaukee and Brooklyn tied for second, which I'm just like, what? I mean, no love for Boston? Like, Boston gets no credit.
I guess they feel like people are going to vote or going to bet on Brooklyn. Again, remember, these are Vegas odds. People feel like people are going to bet on Brooklyn. So Don't give Brooklyn good odds because then they're going to win more money. Yeah. If it were to happen. So then you look at some of the lower odds, like people aren't as likely to bet on those teams, but maybe you should because maybe those teams are more likely to win.
Yeah.